This here Blue Moon, I reckon, was going to win, but Spur was there, and Bob Warman was the best Londoner of the lot. Well, they put him with me in the final, and I beat him. Now, Bill Martin, my pal, Fred Martin's son, he raced with Blue Moon, and Bill lost the toss. He was on the right-hand turn. This Londoner got the left-hand turn, and he beat Bill by 5 yards. That was the best race of the day, but Bill Martin and Blue London. If Bill had had the proper turn, he'd have beat him. Because I think, in them days, that Bill Martin, I've got him going fast enough to beat Don Pearson. Now, Don was the professional champion, and I was the amateur champion. Well, there was always a bit of squabble about one man they thought was better than the other. Well, when Mr. Fred Hartley, you knew him, said to me, will you go down today at the professional meeting at Maple? I said, that's professional. I said, I'm still an amateur. But I said, I've left off training. But he said, that'll be all right, you go. He said, I told him I'd bring a man who could beat them all. He said, you're the only one I think can do it. I went down to Maple, and I turned professional that day. And they put me with Bill Scott of Welney. He was a good skater, but I beat him, left him once through the course. Then I run in the final with Don Pearson. And I beat Don Pearson by, 300 yards.
I saw it.
You saw it?
I told him that.
Well, in the week, they had another professional race at Swavesey. And I went there and took the Mrs. Father, Mr. Vincent, with me. And I thought to myself, well, now today I know I can beat Don. He was a friend of mine. And I thought I'd keep with him. Not bother to leave him, keep with him. Well, I skated level by him, and when we turned the bottom barrel, he surprised me. He got coming back a bit quicker than I was. But I caught him up and passed him, and I won. Well, just as I went by the winning post, somebody had thrown a cigarette box on the floor, and I hit it with my skate, and it fetched me down. Well, the following Saturday, they raced for the Hayes Fisher Cup at Lingy Fen. And I went there, and the missus went with me, and Margaret, my daughter, and Peter was with her. And as they stood on the ice, a lady there in a fur coat said to another person, Don is going to show Horn how to go today. He's an old man, he'll never stick 3 miles. So the wife came to me and said, who was that lady in the fur coat? I said, that's Don Pearson's wife. Well, she said, now for one of you there, you won't stick 3 miles today. I said, oh, I'll show you. So they put me with him in this 3 mile for the Hayes Fisher Cup. And he said to Mr. Drake Digby, the starter, if I lose the toss, when they toss up, could I go on the other man's course to turn this way if I lose the toss on that side, see? He said, yes, providing you're 30 yards away from him and don't interfere with his skate. So I said, well, if he can do that, I can. So we lined up ready to start. And soon as Digby said, well, get ready. I didn't stop for the gun, I'd gone. Well, I'd done that twice, and he told me that if I'd done it again, he would put me behind. I said, it don't matter where you put me today, I shan't be there long. Well, I let him start first then, and after I see him move and the gun went, then I went. For the first 200 yards, I kept my hands down and went. And then I thought to myself, well, I'll draw on the other course, but I'll just look to see where he is. And when I looked round like this, he wasn't there. I thought he'd be right on the backside, but he wasn't. So I went out to the barrel, and I didn't bother about turning close like that. I went out and I skated it, and I went, yards further, but that didn't matter. I kept my speed up, and I come back, and I've done the same for 5 turns that day on that course, and they didn't tell me at the time, as they should have done, but I equaled Jim Smart's record. That was Jim Smart, the old Welney champion. Won the Hayes Fisher Cup in 9 minutes, 52 seconds. And nobody has beat that up to now. Now, what do you think Mrs. Pearson said to Don when he come in? They heard it. He said, don't you ever say that you can beat Horn again, because the further he goes, the further he'll leave you.
Yeah.
And, well, I'll tell you what I could do. I could do 22 yards on a pattern. That was a chain, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And, but since I've been watching this Olympics, I know where I made a big mistake when I went out to the Olympics in 1924. They sent me 3 days before the racing. I'd never been on an oval track in my life. If they'd have put me on a fen river, I'm certain that I could have beat them all. But I could not beat them on that oval course. The ends beat me. See, the small turn was all right, but then the outer turn is about 105 yards round. Now, I was inclined to skate like this and dwell round like that. Well, that's no good. Watching this here American the other night, he's a good skater, but he was the fittest man at the Olympics. Well, if I'd had machines to train on like he had, instead of being out on the land hoeing or digging or spreading manure, I would have done different. But now, see, the next time, General Critchley was head of the Olympics in that year, and the reason they sent me out was because on Welney Wash, a week before, my Uncle Bernie Sutton skated against Fred Jackson of Welney, and I carried my uncle's coat and trousers on my arm like that, and I skated round the outside of the crowd and those two outside the course and beat them both. And I shouted to my Uncle Bernie to keep going, and if I hadn't have done, he wouldn't have beat Fred Jackson. He beat Fred by 30 yards, but he wouldn't have done unless I kept pushing him. Well, he was so excited, he got a leg of mutton and 2 pound, and he gave my mother, he cut the leg of mutton in halves and left half with us, and away he went back to London. He went to see General Critchley. He was head of the Olympic Games, and he told him that he'd got a relation in the fens that could beat everybody. That's the reason I got to the Olympics in 1924. Now, after I'd run, General Critchley withdrew. Albert Tibbett of Littleport was there, because Albert was getting older. F.W. Dix was there, the old champion. my Uncle Barney and myself. Well, they withdrew my Uncle Barney and Tibbet straight out of the team. And General Critchley said, let Horn carry on, he's not disgracing himself. And he said, later on, he said, we'll send him every year till the next Olympics, and then he'll be all right. Well, they forgot about me then, till 1928. And they called me up again then for the Olympics. I went out that time, and I was with Dix. And Dix was a very good skater, and Dix taught me to skate a bit faster. Well, I skated with Thunberg. He was the world's champion. And as he trained, I trained with him. But the only thing was, I couldn't get round them bends. Since then, I've noticed we are done wrong. Watching that fella the other night on there, I tell you where I went wrong. When I went to them corners, I shortened my strides and put an extra 1 or 2 in to get round quick and then away. What I done, see, I was gliding as if I was on a holiday. But see, in my days out there, we know there was the 500 metres, the 1500 metres, the 5000 metres, and the 10,000. Well, this year they've put in a 1,000 metre race, an extra 1. That never was in the Olympics, because see, he won 4 or 5 gold medals, this American, and that was good. Well, the best I ever known a fella to do was in 1936, when Jesse Owens won 4 gold medals for America, and that was when Hitler got up and walked out of the stadium when they played the national anthem. Well, I was picked to go that year on my bike, and I couldn't afford to go because I'd got several cups I wanted to win. So when they came back, my brother Den, he went, and Jack Sibbett of Manchester, he wrote and told me that I should have been there, as Den had done better if I'd have been there to tell him how to go on. Well, when they came back, I went to London and I challenged the fellow they sent to Olympic Games, and in the 1,000 metre time trial. And I run first at Herne Hill cement track, and it took me 1 minute 14 seconds to do that 1,000 metre for the Olympic jersey on the time trial at Herne Hill, London. Well, this fellow they sent, he got on his bike. He was dressed a bit different to me. He had a dressing gown with his name all on the back. Well, I'd got an old, winter coat on. Well, he went, and he couldn't only do 1:16 and 2/5. I beat him by 2 seconds and 2/5, and that's a fair bit on a bike when you're going. And I knew I could beat him, see? Well, there's no man ever done that speed in England yet, only me. That's 1 minute, 14 seconds for 1,000 metres on Herne Hill track, London. But see, well,
Go on. Go on.
You go on.
When you come to chapters.
Shut that off. Listen.
Hey,
Go on, Ed, go on.
now this is...
Go on. Sure.
I got married in November 1929, and in the December 1929 I won the English Championship. Well, now, that day, I might be getting a bit wrong. Just stop that right. Yes.
Yeah.
William Hunter, the Lion, was Upwell, the best sportsman we had in Upwell, came to my house and said he would drive me to Swavesey to run in the amateur race for the Duddeston Cup. We picked up Mr. Albert Morton, the fruit grower, and we went along the 16 foot, and all the road was covered with ice that morning. We got into a skid, and I looked at the river and thought to myself, we're going to be drowned like rats in there. And all of a sudden, when we'd made a figure 8 or 2 on the road, I pulled the handbrake up like that, and it shot the car down in the dike against Arthur Dedford's farm. Arthur Dedford was coming up the field, and he helped us to get the car back onto the road. And he said how lucky we was to be alive. Well, Mr. Hunter said, we better go now to Welney and Littleport, the Swavesey. We won't have no more of this 16-foot river road. So Mr. Garner Hinkins, a farmer, went with Mr. Billy Means of Outwell and Lukey, and they told the people that I was on the road, I was coming, but they waited an hour for me. And then they decided they'd run the final. And Dix and a chap named Norman lined up for the final, and Garner Hinkins said, look, here he comes. I ran on the ice in my Wellingtons, and they stopped the race, stopped them from starting, see. Well, they decided, Mr. Digby decided to let me run a bye. So I ran over the course myself and done it faster than what Dix and all the others had done. Well, then Mr. Digby made me have a quarter of an hour's rest, and he put me in the final with Dix. And I beat Dix by about 25 yards for the Duddeston Cup. Well, coming home, Mr. Williams the butcher took us to his house, and we had a drink apiece, and we came home. We stopped at the Lamb and Flag Hotel at Ely. Well, William Hunter, I'm a teetotal. I don't drink. I never drink, see? I don't smoke and I don't drink. I've seen too many fools that did, and I wasn't going to be in that league. Coming home, it come up foggy. And I said to Mr. Hunter, you better let me drive. No, he said, I can drive. He said, if I can master Jack Fogg this morning, I can beat Jim Fogg tonight. Well, coming down Lake's End, there's a road Horsehead drove.
Yes, I know.
Well, he made a mistake there. Instead of keeping on the main road, he went down Horsehead drove. I said, stop. I said, you're off the road. Well, we got home, but he always said to me, William Hunter said, Upwell would have missed 3 important persons if we'd have got in that river.
Yeah.
Was you born in Upwell?
Yes.
When were you
I
born?
was born in 1904, October the 7th. And I was born years ago at Upwell. You'd remember there was an old blacksmith shop on the riverside. Old man Smithy had it.
Yeah.
Well, then this other side, there was a pub there called the Coach and Horses, where old Cocky Carver had.
Oh, yes.
You'd remember that. That was by the post office.
Yes.
Well, now, I was born a little further up there, 2 houses away from Lance Hunter's bungalow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
Because Lance lost his wife and I tried to buy that bungalow off on him 2 weeks ago. But he
How many children in the family?
6.
6.
There was my sister Ida first, me next, my sister Una, my brother Reg, that was the footballer and the school teacher, Den, and my brother Dick. Now my mother was a Sutton. William Sutton the builder, she was one of his daughters. And my Uncle Tom Sutton, that is in that book where he beat Jim Smart at Littleport. That was the truth, that piece in there, because my Uncle Tom, on the Sunday, my father took him down to this here middle level river, and they got on here against Aqueduct, and from there to that other bridge there where Toyton's farm was. I think that's over half a mile. And my father beat Tom down there that Sunday by 30 yards. And he said to my father, "Are you going to run at Littleport the next day?" He said no. Well, my father could skate, and I only once see him in a match, and that was with old Fred Martin. You knew Fred Martin? Yeah. Now, Fred Martin was a bit of a scrapper, but my father had got a good stroke. But I tell you what, when he skated that day, I was on the ice, but I didn't say what a bloody fool he was, although I thought it, because he left Fred Martin nearly 100 yards from the granaries at Upwell, where the barges used to unload all the maize and corn at Hudson's granary, and to Newbridge, from Church Bridge to that was a half a mile, and he left him quite 100 yards. And my father went by the winning post and couldn't pull up, and I went by him. I said, "Well, you can't race." I said, "You would have pulled up 100 yards before you got to that barrel if you couldn't get round." Well, the trouble was he never skated back. Well, I mean, Fred Martin, if he'd have just turned round properly and went back, but perhaps I don't know, he perhaps thought he'd laid him down and not go no more.
Yeah.
Well, now, see, look, a lot of people don't know it. See, look, I left school when I was 12 years old. I never went back no more. Is it? Are you still
Go on, yeah, go on.
Well, now look. Well, I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I was 12 years old when I left school in the 1914-18 war. My father had got 14 men working for him and 5 forges going at Upwell, making horseshoes for the British Army. We made these horseshoes, we drilled the shoes and tapped them, threaded them to take a rough screw, because these horses, what the shoes went on, used to pull the guns during the war.
Yeah.
We started work on a Monday morning at 7, we left off every night at 9, and on the Sunday we started at 7 and left off at 2. And all the men that was working for my father was exempt from military service, and then the latter part of the time they called every man up for service. They used to have a badge to wear, exempt, and they called them all up. Now we had several young lads there that were strikers with the 8-pound hammers.
Yeah.
But my father and Herbert Horn was the 2 best tradesmen in England. They could make anything, agricultural implements, they could shoe horses. But the worst day work my father ever done was to take the White Lion Hotel, because the White Lion Hotel never kept us, we kept that. That's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, now, looking back, Cyril, when did you start in sport? When did your father start you skating, or when did you start cycling?
Well, being in the pub, all the customers used to call me Babs on. And I used to get behind there and pull the pints for them on those levers. And somebody come in there and gave me a pair of fen runners, because they held a match that afternoon at the back of that old blacksmith's shop. I was 13 years old. And I couldn't skate, but I run. They entered me in the match, these fellas did, and I runned all the way. And on these fen runners, the wood fen runner skates. Well, a day or two after that, they used to match me then with all these boys 14 years and under. Well, at Outwell, I ran against in a boys' match there where Bert Bond, the auctioneer's father, put the race on. I should have won it, but I fell down. And then when I got in, I started to cry. And Mr. Bond's grandfather came to me and said, "What's the matter, Babs?" I said, "Well, I know I can beat that boy." But I said, "I fell down." He said, "Well, look, you better have another race." So he got this boy Smith from Outwell to run with me again for 10 shillings. And I beat him. I didn't fall that time. Well, now then I raced against Walter Ward of Threeholds. That was Herbie Ward's son. And he beat me because he'd got Norwegian skates on. Well, then I went to Welney, and there was a boys' race there, and Jim Smart came to my father, and he said, "Why don't you put the boy on Norwegian skates?" He said, "Well, I can't get him a pair." He said, "I can get a pair." He said, "The Reverend Wilford," that was a clergyman of Welney, his son had died and he got a lovely pair of Norwegian skates. And he let my father have them for 50 shillings. I put them skates straight on and went on the wash in a boys' race. I couldn't turn in them, but I could go straight, and I won the race. I beat Ward with Norwegians on, and he beat me the day before with the fen skates, see. Well, then I went to Maple and skated against a boy there. He was supposed to be 14, but after I beat him, somebody told me he was 16.
Yeah.
Well, he was a bigger lad than me, but
Did you ever do any roller skating for training, or?
no, not. I wasn't any good on roller skates. I'd been on the Hunstanton roller skating rink, but I wasn't any good on that. But I'll tell you what I had got. I've got 2 pair of road skates that Redman, the London champion, bought from Holland, and he wasn't man enough to use them, and he gave them to me. They weigh £4.25 each, and I used to put them on and going up while public hall. That was 44 laps to the mile, and I used to do that in 5 minutes. Then I put them on the road, and one night, and a flashlight on the front, and I skated to Wisbech. The other fellows was on bikes, and I was on the road. When I used to go like this, people used to jump off the road, wondered where I was going.
How many times did you win the Amateur Championship of Great Britain skating?
4 times.
4 times, and that was at Lingy Fen?
Yes.
Covet Wash?
Now, half a minute. The Swavesey once, and the first time at Lingy Fen, the second time at Lingy Fen, and the third time at Lingy Fen, and the 4th time at Swavesey.
Yes. What cups did you win?
What, skating?
Yes.
Well, I can't tell you all of them, because I'll tell you what's happened. Last week, one of my friends come that used to travel about with me a bit, Les Youngs of Obwell.
Yeah. No, Les. I know that.
And he said, let me take the record book home with me. So I let him take the record book home. there's everything in that, and that book is 2.5 inches thick, and it tells you everything I won in there. Just offhand, I won the Dudderston Cup 4 times. I won the English Championship Cup 4 times, and I'm the only man in the country today that's won the King's Cup skating and the King's Cup cycling. Nobody else has ever done it. I won the cycling cup, the King Edward's Cycling Cup at Earlham Road, Norwich.
Well, not only winning the skating championships, how many times did you win the cycling championship?
Well, I won the Cambridgeshire Championship 6 times. I won the Eastern County Championship 16 times. From the quarter of a mile to, I won the quarter of a mile to Chatteris.
Yeah.
That day I'd had a ball on my face lanced the night before, and the doctors told me I hadn't got a ride. But when my father asked me, he said I was all right, and I went to Chatteris, and I won the quarter of a mile Eastern County Championship. I come out and went into your big tent. I laid in there and I fainted, and my Uncle Bernie Sutton and Harry Overland carried me out and laid me outside the tent. I come round and I got on my bike for the 3-mile scratch, the big race at Chatteris, and I won that, the 10-pound 114 pieces of stainless eyewitness cutlery. That was one of the best prizes in the eastern counties. And Chatteris was a wonderful day's sport.
Well, looking back over your life, what would you say was your most pleasant win, or shall we say, what pleased you the most to win?
Well, my best day's sport that I ever had, see, my father wasn't a man that to praise you up much, but that day he said to me at Ely, he said, "Dear old boy, you're riding today." I won the half-mile handicap at Ely in 1 minute, 2 seconds. And I was riding off about 15 yards. I got on my bike and I won the mild handicap in 2:19. Then I got on my bike for it's the City of Ely Challenge Cup, and I won that. Well, I got in the motor car then at 4:30, and my father drove me to Cambridge, to the football field. And there was a half-mile scratch there, and there was a 2-mile scratch. And I got on and I won both those 2 10-guinea purses that night. And I think that day, I'm not real certain, I think that day I won about 67 pounds worth of prizes, watches, gold Alberts, watches, and cases of cutlery, beside the share in the City of Ely Cup. And I made that cup my own property the following year.
Well, looking back in what I remember,
Yeah.
I always remember the Horn brothers racing the Chamber brothers, and Theka and Albert White,
Yeah,
and all these.
yeah.
How is it that your brother Dennis wasn't quite as good?
Switch that off now.
Go on, it's all right.
I can't tell you all this. All right, stop now. We drove the car from Upwell to Portsmouth. I think that was about 200 miles.
Yeah.
When we got down there, Claude Butler was there with Ernie Chambers. and Ernie wanted this cup that day to be his own property. So Claude Butler said, well look, Cyril and Dennis, you better help Ernie to win this cup today to make it his own property. Well, we rode in the race, and I won the lap prize for a start. And there was a fellow named Harbour. He was a very good rider, and we thought that he'd be a bit of trouble. We thought perhaps he might beat Ernie, but he didn't. And Ernie won the cup. My brother Den was second, and I was third. Well, that night I drove that car, Den drove the car till he got to Jack Holden's, close to this side of London, the tractor place, and he pulled up at 10 o'clock. He said, look, I can't go no further, you better take over. So I took over, and I always used to drive the car about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, all through the night till 1 or 2 in the morning. When we went to Scotland, we used to leave up at 4:45 in the morning. We'd be at Scotland 400 miles away and race on that track at 6 o'clock at night, the same day.
Then come home.
Well, there was a time when I could do that and race, and it didn't affect me. But the latter part of the time, it took me a fortnight to get over that trip. Now, I was knocked off my bike at Ely, and I couldn't walk for a day or two. I had to miss the Perry Bar meeting, and I went to Glasgow because I was invited up there to the Rangers, Ardrick's Park. And Mr. Strutt said, what's the matter with you, Owen? I said, well, I've hurt my leg. I said, I can't walk. Well, he said, look, can you get up them stairs? I said, no. He said, well, go down below to the trainer of the Rangers football club. He said, he'll put you right. Well, I went down below, and he said, had a look at my knee, and he said to my brother Dana and Ernie Chambers, he said, hold him in that chair while I get this wire brush and just rub over his knee and paint it. After he'd done that, and a good job they held me there, otherwise I should have jumped out the chair. I walked up the steps and I got on my bike, and I was second to my brother Danny in the scratch race. And that day there was over 100,000 people watching the athletes, the foot runners and the cyclists. And that was